Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome. Welcome to this extraordinary event, a sold-out program. We're so proud to be hosting, and we're so eager to thank you for being here and to say welcome. We're really thrilled. So my name is James Rondo. I have the great privilege of serving as the president and Eloise W. Martin director of our great museum. And I'm so happy to be a part of today to say hello and to welcome you. Today's conversation, of course, centers on our extraordinary exhibition, Radical Clay, Contemporary Women Artists from Japan. At the outset, it is also my privilege to welcome two extraordinary artists who have traveled from London and Japan, I believe, respectively, to be with us today. Hitomi Hosono and Mio Yamaguchi. Thank you for making the journey. Thank you for being a part of this conversation, and welcome. So today, it's a truly special way to celebrate Radical Clay. It's on view through June 3 in the galleries in our Roger and Pamela Weston wing. Galleries, Janice, 108? 108 and 109, thank you. And Radical Clay celebrates 36 contemporary ceramic artists, all women, who are producing some of the most ambitious, important, and unconventional clay anywhere on the planet today. I'm also very pleased to welcome Mr. Joe Earle. I know a lot about Mr. Joe Earle, but we just met a second ago. He's the editor of the beautiful and important exhibition catalog that accompanies the show, and he will join my colleague, Dr. Janice Katz, today in conversation. I also want to extend my immense gratitude to our friends, our collectors, supporters, Carol and Jeffrey Horvitz, who are here with us today. Welcome to Carol, welcome to Jeffrey, thank you. All 40 pieces in this exhibition come from Carol's extraordinary collection. This is, in so many ways, of course, a partnership, but this is Carol's vision to support these artists and to partner with, I think, the best museums in the world. So, Carol, you've had the goal of bringing this work to global audiences for a long time, and you've done it. So thank you. More on that soon, but I also want to just pause before we get to the true content of this afternoon. Today's program is so importantly supported by the Carol Given Winston Fund. Another Carol was a member of our museum family for almost 40 years, and the fund that carries her name was established to inspire those who share Carol's love of art, of learning, and of this institution, especially appropriate to the opportunity of what we'll learn from the artist today. I'm also super happy and grateful to welcome one of Carol's sons, I hope is here, Bert Winston. Bert, are you here? Welcome and thank you, Bert. So many of us here knew your mother and loved your mother, and it's so extraordinary for us to have the chance to honor her, but also to say thank you directly, so thank you. And lastly, today's conversation is presented in partnership with our extraordinary Society for Contemporary Art. Our collections and our exhibitions span geographies and cultures ranging from the ancient past to today. So we're honored always to collaborate with the Society for Contemporary Art and always underscore that from the ancient world to today, that our museum is a place that centers artists and centers our institution as a place of gathering. So with that, I would like to turn the podium over to my great friend, Patty Sternberg, who is the president of the Society for Contemporary Art. And thank you, Patty, and thank you, Society. Thank you, all of you. Thanks for being here. and turn it over to Patty, and then we'll get the program on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. I am Patty Sternberg, President of the Society for Contemporary Art, a nonprofit organization supporting the Art Institute of Chicago's contemporary art initiatives, acquisitions, and collections for 84 years. Today, we are excited to partner with the Art Institute to co-present this panel conversation as part of the exhibition Radical Clay, Contemporary Women Artists from Japan. Before delving into today's program, let me highlight some upcoming SCA events. On April 24th, Brooklyn-based artist, writer, and educator Stephanie Jemison will deliver an artist talk here in Fullerton Hall, free to the public, and made possible by SCA long-term supporters Stephen Pratt and Sari Hoffman. Following the lecture, a ticketed dinner with the artists for SCA members will be hosted at Summer House Santa Monica. On May 4th, artist John Knight will unveil his outdoor installation on the Bloom Family Terrace, followed by a discussion in Fullerton Hall. After the discussion, SCA members are invited to enjoy a complimentary walkthrough and reception on the terrace. For more information on the SCA and all of our events, please visit scaic.edu. Our programs are critical in fulfilling our mission and the goals that we share with the Art Institute. Without further delay, I would like to invite Roger L. Weston, Associate Curator of Japanese Art, Janice Katz, to introduce our special panelists. Thank you all for being here.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Thank you, Patty. I would like to share my gratitude to the Society of Contemporary Art for co-presenting today's program in support of our shared mission to highlight contemporary artists across the globe for Chicago audiences. My name is Janice Katz. I'm the curator of the Radical Clay exhibition, and it has been such a pleasure, along with my colleagues, to help bring Radical Clay to all of you in Chicago. And I join James in thanking Carol and Jeffrey Horvitz for their vision and their generosity in sharing the works with us. I am thrilled today that we get to hear from two of the artists themselves about their extraordinary ceramic sculptures. I'd like to invite the panelists to come on stage, take their seats. So on stage with me, we'll have the artists, as James said, Hitomi Hosono and Mio Yamaguchi, both of whom thank you for that warm welcome. Both of them traveled a great distance to be with us today. Their distinctive sculptures are some of the most remarked upon works in Radical Clay. Hosono-san's intricate nature-inspired white porcelain creation, and Yamaguchi-san's tower of barnacles or scales, which graces the cover of the catalog. And also with me is catalog editor Joe Earle, former head of the Asian Art Department at the Boston Museum of Fine Arts, and former director of the Japan Society Gallery in New York. He has published extensively on contemporary ceramics in Japan, so very, very pleased that he was part of the project. And I'd like to introduce our translator, Jun Mizukawa, who joins us today. And extend my sincere gratitude for her participation. So with that, I turn it over to you, Joe, to start our discussion.
Well, thank you very much, Janice. And let me start by thanking James and you and the Institute and Carol and Jeffrey for, among other things, at last making it possible for me to come here and actually see the exhibition. Because having been involved with it for a couple of years, and I know it's been on for 3 months, it's great to actually see the installation. And congratulations on a fabulous installation job. It looks wonderful. And if any of you haven't seen it yet, make sure you go right after this and take it in. Look, it's really wonderful. So, turning to our distinguished artist friends, I'd like to ask a few questions. I'm going to start by talking to my fellow Londoner, Hosono Hitomi. It turns out that her workshop in London is only half a mile or so away from the place where I have lived for more than 40 years. With that irrelevance out of the way, I'd like to ask Hosomi-san to answer the first of our questions, which is, how did you create the work in the exhibition and indeed works like it? And what's the concept behind your work?
まずこのような素晴らしい機会をくださって本当にありがとうございます、皆さん。私は日本で生まれ育った日本人ですけれども、現在は英国に住み陶芸活動をしていますが、この作品を制作した時は日本にいた時に馴染みの深かった思い出深い植物や風景をテーマに制作をしていました。
Thank you very much for giving me this great opportunity to come visit and showcase my work. And I'm originally from Japan, but I'm currently working in London, England. When I was working on the piece for the exhibit, I was exploring themes of plants and landscapes that were familiar to me from my time in Japan.
この作品の題名は松の木、パイントリーです。岐阜県の実家の庭に生えていた松や、石川県に住んでいた時によく兼六園で見た松の木を思い出しながら、そのスプリック、いわゆるレリーフをデザインしました。その私が見た松のその踊るように曲がりくねった幹や枝が本当に好きで、長らくぜひ作ろうと思っていた作品です。
The title of the piece is Pine Tree. I designed it based on my recollection of the pine trees in my home garden back in Gifu Prefecture, and the ones that I used to see when I frequented the Kendokuen Garden in Ishikawa Prefecture. I've long wanted to make this piece because I like the pine trees with twisted trunk and gnarly branches that look like they were dancing.
この作品の制作過程を簡略して言いますと、まずは最初の段階として、松の幹や枝をモチーフにモデルを粘土で作ります。それからネガティブの石膏型をその形から作ります。その形からいくつものスプリック、レリーフを自土で作り、その一つ一つにさらに歯医者さんが使う道具を自分なりにちょっと変えた道具でディテールを彫り込みます。この作業は大変時間がかかります。そして枝の間に穴を開けて透かしを加えてレリーフは仕上がります。
To explain my creative process in simple terms, the first step involves shaping a mold based on the motif of a trunk or branches of a pine tree. Next, I prepare a negative mold. By pressing the porcelain in the negative mold, I create a number of sprig leaves. Once I carve finer details into each sprig with tools that are modified, but the tools originally intended to be used by the dentist, I create open work by making spaces between branches.
そしてですね、これはこの透かしですけれども、実は日本の欄間を参考に考え出したテクニックです。
I drew inspiration for this process from Ramma, an open work screen above the sliding partition doors inside the Japanese home.
そして出来上がったスプリッグをろくろで引いた形に作品の内側からつけていきます。
Once the sprigs are prepared, I affix them to a wheel-thrown vessel, beginning with the inside of the vessel.
その後、外側にもスプリッグを貼り付けます。そして形はそれで完成するわけですけれども、その後割れを防ぐために1年ほどゆっくりと時間をかけて乾燥させます。その後、だいたい1280度ぐらいの温度で窯で焼きます。
Afterwards, I affixed the sprigs on the outside of the vessel. After letting the piece sit and dry very slowly over the course of approximately a year, I finished the piece by firing it at the high temperature of 1,280 degrees Celsius, approximately 2,336 degrees Fahrenheit.
So I have another question. Sorry. Now I have another question for you. How do you plan and visualize for a work? Do you do drawings in advance?
ですね、大まかなスケッチというのはするんですけれども、スケッチは主に土でやるといった方が良いと思います。
I do prepare a rough sketch on paper, but it might be more accurate to say that I visualize a piece by working with clay.
紙の上では一方からした植物のモチーフしか表現できず、いざ土でスプリッグを作るための形のモデルを作るとなると、紙で描いたようにどうしてもいかないことがありまして、その植物を自分の目で観察した時の記憶や手で触れた時の記憶、その植物の記憶を頼りに直接土からスプリッグ、レリーフのモデルを作ります。
Sketching plant motifs on paper is limiting, as it is only affords a singular dimension or perspective, and it is often difficult to render a drawn image of a plant into a clay mold for a sprig. I tend to rely more on my memories of seeing the plants with my own eyes and feeling the plants with my own hands as I work directly with clay to prepare a sprig mold.
土を手で触っている間に、よりその植物のイメージが自分の中で膨らんで、自分だけのデザインが出来上がると私は信じています。私は植物のコピーを作りたいわけではないので、手が動くがまま、自分の独創的な要素も練り込みながらスプリッグ、レリーフのモデルを作ります。
I believe that my original design emerges through my direct handling of clay. This process allows me to develop a fuller image of a plant in my mind. I'm not interested in making a simulacrum of a plant. Instead, I let my hands lead me as I weave my own creative elements into making a sprig model.
Now, I've had the privilege of seeing different works of yours from different stages of your career. And I wonder if you could tell us something about the way your work's evolved and what techniques or shapes you're likely to incorporate in the future.
日本にいた時は陶芸の基礎的な技法や知識、また彫刻的な現代陶芸作りを私は学び、その後デンマークと続いてイギリスでヨーロッパの陶芸、建築様式、アンティークの家具、絵画など本当にさまざまなものから影響を受け、今の作品のスタイルにたどり着きました。
My current style draws inspiration from a wide range of things. In Japan, I studied skills and knowledge fundamental to the ceramic art, as well as sculptural styles of contemporary ceramic art. In Denmark and England, I was influenced by European ceramic art, architectural styles, antique furniture designs, and paintings.
特にイギリスのロイヤルカレッジ・オブ・アートに在籍中の2008年頃からは、特にイギリスの陶芸、ウェッジウッドに強く影響を受け、スプリック技法を応用した作品を作り始めました。
Since 2008, while I was at the Royal College of Art in London, strongly inspired by Wedgwood, I began working on pieces that utilized the sprig mold technique.
その後、技法は一つ一つ作品を作るごとに、そのアイデアやコンセプトを叶えるために変化し続けています。
Since then, every time I create a new piece, my sprig mold technique undergoes a minor transformation in order to realize an idea or a concept.
例えば、現在展示中の作品パイントリーですが、その生命力豊かな松の木を表現したいと思い、日本家屋の欄間を参考に透かし彫りのように穴を開けて彫ることを考え出しました。
For instance, with Pine Tree, the piece that is currently on exhibit, I wanted to express a pine tree that's full of vitality. Borrowing from Ramma design of the Japanese household, I have devised a way to produce a semblance of an open-work design by carving spaces between leaves.
長らく私の焼き物作りのテーマは自然の中に存在する美ですが、これはしばらくの間変わることはないと思います。自然界には本当に無限に美が存在していて、終わりなく続く旅であると私は考えています。
In my work, beauty in the natural world has long been a theme, and I imagine this will remain so for the time being. I believe that there is infinite beauty in the natural world, and it is an everlasting journey for me.
作りたい自然界からのモチーフ、形、テーマは膨大にあって、一生の間にそのすべてを焼き物で表現することは不可能ではありますけれども、一つ一つコツコツと土で形にしていきたいと考えています。
Given how vast a reservoir of motifs, shapes, and themes exists within the natural world, it would be nearly impossible for me to work all of them into my pottery during my lifetime. With that said, I do hope to give each shape through clay one at a time.
Well, I think we all hope that process goes on for a very long time. Now, Hosono-san is someone whose work I was a little bit familiar with. Yamaguchi-san came to me as a complete surprise, encountering her work in the Horvitz collection. And then for me, as a sort of first-time experience, I began to find a little bit more about her through the medium of Instagram. That's never happened to me before with a living artist. So I'd like to ask by starting how you created the work in the exhibition and what the concept was behind it.
私もまずはこの場所に立てて本当に幸せです。ありがとうございます。私の作品は壺型の土台を作って、でそれに上からひだを貼っていくやり方で作っているんですが、
I'm also very happy to be here today. I began by forming an urn-shaped base by hand and affixing thinly rolled out clay pieces one by one.
でその土台の壺は自分の心の中というか精神の裸というようなイメージがあって、でその覆っているひだはそれを隠すようなものだったり、それを飾ったりしたりするようなイメージでいます、自分の中では。
In my mind, the base vessel presented itself as my naked and adorned self, a spirit, and the layers of thinly rolled out clay pieces that enveloped the base were meant to adorn, to hide, and to patch up in order to protect my spirit.
でよく例えるのがなんかお化粧みたいだなって思う時があって、
I compare it often to like a makeup.
なんというかその裸の状態というかすっぴん
Bare face.
でそれをなんか隠そうとしてひだをこう一生懸命貼っていって、でこうメイクアップしていくっていうような感じ。
So I imagine the process to be just layering the thinly rolled up pieces one by one as if to sort of put on the makeup on my bare face.
で今回の展示していただいた作品はちょっと分岐点の作品で、その壺型の土台を結構残して自分の中では作ったもので、昔はもっとこうひだを全面にこうブワーッと貼っていたんですけど、それをこうちょっと表面の土台の部分、壺型の部分をこうちょっとシワが寄っていたり汚いようなところもなんかいいなって自分の中で思えて、それも残したい、ひだで覆って隠しちゃったらもったいないなと思って作った作品です。
I have a special attachment to the work currently on display here, as it marks a turning point for me. With this piece, for the first time, I was able to love my naked and adorned self a little and to feel comfortable leaving the base texture exposed. And I used to leave the urn-shaped more covered. I would layer and layer and layer. But this time, I felt comfortable leaving the sort of the wrinkles and the cracks and the base more.
Now, I think I know what the answer is to the next question, but it's an important one, so I'm going to ask it anyway. I wonder whether you do any drawings or preparatory sketches before you get to work.
スケッチは全くしないです。
When working on the piece, I neither sketch nor draw at all.
しようと思ったこともなくて
It never occurred to me either.
なんか勝手に多分スケッチをしても土なので粘土が生き物なので、それをやったところで全く違うものになっていくし、それがすごく楽しくて、なんか粘土と遊んでいるような感覚。
Even if I do sketch or draw, it will never go as planned because it's the clay and the clay is a living thing. So I feel like I'm playing with clay.
なんで自分の想像を超えてこう底を作ってその土台を作っていくけどこう大きくなったり広がったり自分の想像を超える形になっていくのがすごく土という素材が面白いところだなと思います。
The clay is so interesting and fun as a material because as I make it, maybe the size expands or the shape changes along the way, and I find that fascinating, the whole process.
Looking forward, and we hope we can look forward for a long time because you are the youngest artist in the whole exhibition. I wonder if you can tell us how your work has evolved and what techniques or shapes you are likely to incorporate in the future, and whether maybe there'll be a change of scale going forward.
陶芸を始めたのは大学時代で、その頃からずっと今の薄い土が重なった作品を作っています。
Ever since I began working in ceramic art during my college years, my work has always involved the layering of thinly rolled out clay pieces that you see today.
なのでずっとやっていて、その行為自体も楽しいというか、作って紐をただ積んで、こうひだを1枚ずつひたすらくっつけてっていうのが、こう日々のさまざまな感情とか、土にそれを練り込んでいくような感覚があって、でその感情とかその時あったこととかで変わっていくから、日記みたいな感覚もあったりで、行為自体がすごく救いになる時があって、だから写経みたいな気持ちに、だからすごい精神が落ち着いたりっていうようなものです。
So the process feels like I'm weaving my myriad daily emotions into clay, like a diary. I'm putting it on one by one, or I'm layering it one by one. And then at time, it is also calming, as if I'm hand copying Buddhist sutras.
で将来的にっていうことなんですけど、作品が出来上がるたびにこのテクスチャーというかこの集結したものというか自分の作品の表情をもっと見たいと思うし、もっとこうしたいみたいなものがすごくあるので、このスタイルでずっといくと思うし。
Looking ahead, each time I finish my work, my desire to see denser textures, to go deeper into my spirit and stack clay more finely and boldly grows. So I imagine I'll be exploring my current style for a foreseeable future.
なんかすごいその将来性というか、なんか作品って変わっていかなきゃいけないのかなってすごい迷うというか悩む時があったんですけど、なんかずっとこの飛騨の作品を作ってるので、なんかまたこれみたいな、ずっとこれみたいな風に言われたりとか。
So sometimes I wonder and I question myself, should I be doing this? Because I've always been doing the way I've been doing it. Should I continue to do it this way? And then sometimes I, say, oh, this is it again. But I do think, see myself doing that for a while.
そう、でもなんかこの行為自体もすごく自分の救いで、なんか本当になきゃいけなくて、なんか結構自分のネガティブな感情とかをすごいぶつけるタイプなんですけど、その粘土になんかそれが本当に必要で、なんかなんか繰り返しが好きなんですよね。その繰り返し安心するんですよ。だからなんだろう、その変化ってすごい人によって好きとか何ですかね、変化を恐れない人とすごく嫌う人と、この変化はいいけどこの変化は嫌だとか人によって違うと思うんですけど、私はこの変化がすごく嫌だというか、この繰り返しにすごく救われているので、だから無理に変わることはないかなと思って、無理に変えることをやめました。
So the whole process of handling the clay and working with the clay is comforting. I find the whole process comforting for me, and sometimes I throw my negative emotions at the clay, and then I work with the clay as I work my emotions through. And I know some people like to change, and other people prefer not to change. And I've had my dilemmas of whether I should change, I shouldn't change my style. But I do find the repetition comforting, and then I find that a form of change, although it is repetitive or repetition. So I've stopped wanting to change in that way.
Well, thank you very much. We all look forward to seeing how these complicated considerations roll out in the years to come. Now, I'd like to turn it over to my colleague Janice Katz, who's going to ask some more general questions, not so closely associated with individual works.
Thank you so much. I want to take the opportunity of having you both with us here in Chicago to ask some questions that don't have a direct connection with the works on view, but about your approach to the works of art and your career in general. And a question that, again, I think I know the answer to, but it's very interesting to hear anyway, is first for Yamaguchi-san. Do you find that traditional Japanese ceramics have any relevance or importance for you in terms of techniques or glazes or styles?
あまり考えたことがなかったんですけど。
I have not given much thought to this question.
というのも、実は陶芸をずっとやってたわけではなくて、
It's not because I've not always done ceramic art.
陶芸は大学時代で出会って、
I encountered ceramic art in my college years.
でそれまではずっと絵を描いてたんですね。
Until then, I've always drawn.
美術はずっと好きで、絵を描いて生きていきたいと思って美大を目指してたんですけど、
So all my life, I've always liked drawing, and I thought I would make my life out of drawing. So I wanted to go to an art university.
そうで大学で出会って、ですごく陶芸って実はなんかこうろくろとか湯飲みとかのイメージだったんですけど、結構何やってもいいんだってことに気づいてというか知って、それでこう土で表現することにのめり込んでいったんですけど、
So at college, I discovered or I learned that, ceramic art isn't just about teacups and using a wheel, but it's a lot more liberating, it's more free, and that's when I realized, oh, this is interesting.
そうですね。なので、日本の生まれたところが愛知県の岐阜県の多治見だったり瀬戸市だったり、焼き物のかなり身近なところに住んでたので生きてきたので、なんでそういう美濃焼とか瀬戸焼の釉薬の質感とか糖度の質感とかをこうすごく身近なもう当たり前のものとしてあったので、美しいと思う感覚だったり影響は受けたと思います。
Although because I was born in Aichi Prefecture, and from an early age I've always been accustomed to the Mino ware and the Seto ware of Gifu Prefecture, perhaps because they were so familiar to me, I may have unconsciously acquired an affinity for the glaze and texture of the clay of the Mino region.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Certainly walking through the exhibition for many of the artists on view, the connection with traditional ceramics is probably a moot point, if a point at all, but there are some connections. And so for Hosono-san, the same question as to whether traditional ceramics hold any appeal or meaning with your current work.
私は日本で岐阜県美濃焼産地にある多治見工業高校のろくろ部でろくろを勉強し、その後九谷焼で知られる石川県にある金沢美術工芸大学の陶芸コースで学びました。そしてその後、石川県金沢うだつ山工芸工房にて陶芸家として数年間活動しました。
I began my career at the Potter's Wheel Club at Tajimi Technical School in Gifu Prefecture, a region for which the Mino ware is well known. At the Kanazawa College of Art in Ishikawa Prefecture, where Kutani ware is known for, I majored in ceramics at the Department of Craft. For a few years following my college graduation, I also worked as a ceramist at Kanazawa Utatsuyama Koge Kobo Ceramic Studio.
このように私は陶芸の基礎を日本で身につけました。そして日本の伝統的な焼き物産地にいたことにより、私は常にそれらを強く意識していたと思っています。それらに影響されたり、当時の作品はそれらに影響されたり反発したりした作品を作っていました。
I acquired my fundamental ceramic art skills in Japan. Being in Japan, in a region known for its traditional Japanese ware, I was always strongly aware of the pottery and its regional reputation. Thus, my practice has always been influenced by it very strongly, and at the same time responding to it by rebelling against it.
そうした中でどこの国にいてもその国の伝統的な焼き物に惹かれる思考が自分に形成されたと思っています。
Given this background, no matter where I went, something in me always found the traditional pottery fascinating.
Thank you so much for such a thoughtful answer. And I would like to turn it back to Yamaguchi-san and ask her, which other ceramic artists does she admire, and whose work does she see almost as a precedent or an influence on her own work?
最も影響を受けたというと中島晴美先生っていう大学の教授でもあるんですけど陶芸家で彼に出会ってなかったら私は陶芸をやってなかったと思うのでここにもいなかったと思います。
The most influential ceramist for me is the Harumi Nakashima, who was my college mentor, and he had an enormous impact on me. If it were not for him, I may never have started working with ceramics, and I may never have arrived here today.
彼は何と言うんですかね、すごく自由な方で、そのさっき言ったその湯飲みとかその伝統的なイメージを完全に覆されたっていう感じなんですけど。
He was such a free spirit, and then he's the one responsible for sort of overturning the biases I may have about Japanese ceramic as teacups.
その何ですか、大学行く前美大を目指してた時に画塾絵の塾に通ってたんですけど、そこで自分の作った陶芸の作品を結構伝統的なそのアートの美術の先生だったので結構こんなんはダメだって言われてでそれをその大学で同じようなものやったらすごいめちゃめちゃいいみたいにその中島先生が言ってくれて。
So when I was preparing myself for an entrance exam for the art universities, I was going to like a cram school for art students. And when I was very heavily criticized for the kind of work I was producing then. And after I got into art university, Nakashima sensei, my mentor, when he looked at my piece, he gave me a lot of encouragement, and he really liked my piece, and that won me over.
なんかなんていうんですかね、その伝統的なそのアートの教育の載ってるところじゃなくて、なんか全然遊んだものというか粘土で遊んだものをいいって言ってくれて、なんか粘土土でこんななんか好きなことしていいんだと思って。
He was the first one who convinced me that it's okay not to steer away from the traditional art, but he's the one who said it's okay to play with the clay and then produce something.
だからそのちょっと流れで陶芸家じゃないんですけど、そのジャン・デュ・ビュッフェのアウトサイダーアートに影響を結構受けて。
And because of that, although he was not a ceramic artist, I'm also influenced by the outside art, John Buffet.
とか、あと思うのはその自然界のアーティストたちというか、その虫とかその鍾乳洞のなんていうんですか、重なり洞窟の何億年何万年かけてできた形とか。なんかその人に見られようと思って作られてないものというか、その虫とかすごいクモの巣とか美しいけど、それをなんか誰かに見られようとか誰かに評価されようとかして作られてないものがなんかかっこいいなというか、そういう感覚があります。
So things like spiders' webs or insects or the caves inside the caves, things that are made but not with an intention of showing to somebody else. I find that to be very beautiful, and I find that inspirational.
Thank you. Hosono-san, similarly for you, I think the artist who had the most influence on you would be a name that is known to most of us here. Please explain to us.
私が最も影響を受けた陶芸家は260年間以上続く英国の陶工ジョサイア・ウェジウッドです。その焼き物メーカーウェジウッド を立ち上げたジョサイア・ウェチュートのその情熱的な努力、ジャスパーウェアを作り上げるまでの素晴らしい努力に大変感動しました。
The ceramist I'm most influenced by is Josiah Wedgwood. As you know, he was an English ceramic artist who more than 260 years ago founded Wedgwood, an English fine china and porcelain manufacturer. I marvel at his passion and dedication to develop his famous jasper ware.
私はロイヤルカレッジ・オブ・アートにいた頃、彼が用いた技法、スプリギング技法と言った方が良いかもしれないですけれども、そのジャスパーウェアにインスピレーションを受け、それが現在の私の制作技法へとつながっています。
You can probably trace my current creative techniques back to his sprig mold techniques used on jasper ware. I was inspired by it during my time at the Royal College of Art.
尊敬する陶芸家はもうこの世にはいないんですけれども、縄文土器、特にその中でも縄文火炎土器を作った人々です。
I'm also in awe of the ceramists who are no longer here because they made Jomon earthenware, especially those who made Jomon flame-style pottery.
原始的な生活の中であのような優れた焼き物を作ることができたというのはただただ驚くばかりで、何千年経った今でもその高い芸術性で多くの人々に感動を与え続けているところは本当に素晴らしいと思います。
I'm amazed not only at the superiority of their work despite their primitive living conditions, but also at their sophisticated artistry that continues to affect people even after a few millennia have passed.
そしてこれらの土器を通し、私たち人間にとって土を触り焼き物によって表現するということは何なのか、その重要性とはというような大きな疑問を私たちに投げかける縄文時代のこのアーティストたちを私は尊敬します。
I admire these Jomon era artists who, through their earthenware, continue to pose important questions for us, like what it means for humans to touch clay, and form expression through pottery, as well as the significance of our forms of expression.
またそれらを作ったのは実は女性ではなかったのではという論にも興味を惹かれます。
I'm also intrigued by the theory that suggests that these earthenware may have been produced by women.
今は AI を使ったりアート作品を簡単に制作できる便利な機器や方法ができてくる中で、それでも自分の手で土をこねて手を汚して、そして時間をかけて焼き物を作り上げることに喜びを感じる私たち、その理由を見つける鍵が縄文土器にあるように思えます。
With the advent of such convenient devices and methods as artificial intelligence that let us produce art easily, it is important to remember the joy we feel while working directly with clay and getting dirty, and then the reason for wanting to make time to create pottery, things we can learn from Jomon earthenware.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And we're getting close to the end of the program, so I think we probably just have time for one more question for each of the artists. Probably one more quick question for each of them. So I'll start with Hosono-san. And how important is it for your work to gain recognition outside of Japan? Because here in the U.S., your work has been shown also in Europe, and I wonder if being able to have your work shown outside of Japan is especially meaningful for you.
自分の作品を広く海外の人たちに認めてもらえることは励みになり、作品を制作続ける上で大変自信になります。
It's encouraging to have my work widely recognized by people overseas, and it helps me build confidence to carry on my work.
また文化や言語、宗教などが違ったとしても、自分の作品を通じて多くの人たちにつながっていくことができるというのは素晴らしいと思います。
I'm also delighted to see that people from different cultural, linguistics, and religious backgrounds can connect through my work.
私は植物の美をテーマにイギリスで制作し、国際的なアートフェア、展示会などを通して作品を紹介していますが、その作品について海外の人たちと話すときに気づくのは、誰しもが植物を愛し、それに囲まれた生活を望んでいるということです。
I have been exploring the theme of plant beauty through my work in England as I travel to various international fairs and exhibitions to display my work. Whenever I have a chance to speak to people overseas about my work, I'm reminded of how much everyone loves plants and wishes for a life surrounded by them.
この世界共通の価値観を自分の作品を紹介することで感じられるというのも嬉しく思います。
I'm happy to know that my work can elicit such a universally shared appreciation for plants.
Thank you so much. Last question for Yamaguchi-san.
I think, yes, we only have time for one more, but I wanted to ask you, as the youngest artist in the exhibition, how you think your work builds on or deviates from that of past ceramic artists, or indeed other artists of your generation who are in the exhibition.
今回の展覧会に参加している田中智美さんや服部さんや森さんや川浦さんは大学の先輩で一緒に同じ陶芸室で陶芸をしていたのですごく影響を受けてこうすごく自由な想像力というか本当にこう土はすごくその人のなんか内面がすごく出るので本当に面白いなと思ってだからなんかその作品を見ただけでその人がどんな人なのか分かるような気がするのでなんかその土との向き合い方みたいなことはすごく影響を受けました。
Works by Tanaka Tomomi, Hattori Makiko, Mori Aya, and Kawamurasaki are also on the display at this exhibit, and they all attended my alma mater before me. And I'm immensely affected by their handling of clay because I believe clay reflects the inner personality of who they are. And I'm also inspired by the freedom of their creative expressions and how they shape, how their shapes seem to capture who they are.
Thank you. Thank you all so much. Thank you to the artists for explaining, answering questions that are not always easy to think about and articulate. I really appreciate that. And the thoughtful questions posed by my panelists, Joe Earle, and the wonderful translation by Jun Mizukawa. And now we invite you to continue the conversation with us in the galleries. The artists and the collectors, Jeffrey Horvitz, will be available for questions in the gallery. Do we have a moment to invite Jeffrey up here to so you can recognize him, so you know who to direct some questions to when we're in the galleries? We are absolutely thrilled by how popular the exhibition has been with our audience. So if the gallery gets crowded, or Jeffrey himself gets crowded, please come back again in a bit. It will be worth your patience, I promise. Now, just a word from Jeffrey.
Everyone, just look up behind you, look down below you. This is the largest turnout I have ever seen for Japanese ceramics, and this is half the people who signed up. The room couldn't hold any more. This is the catalog. 3,000 copies were printed. They were all sold out within less than 2 weeks. This is due to all of you. Don't despair. Another 1,000, I don't know how many thousand are being printed right now as the second issuance. We've never seen catalogs sell out this fast for what would seem to be a niche exhibition. So really, you support the museum. You support the artist. And how do you do this? By coming, by seeing, by enjoying. All of you participate in this great exercise. We have more coming in October from the vast French collection. Will be what was really a show of neoclassicism, about 125 French drawings from 1770 to 1830, probably about 20 to 40 paintings still being decided, no sculpture because most are terracotta and they're very delicate. I've lived in 5 cities. I was born in Shaker Heights outside of Cleveland, lived in Philadelphia, lived in Los Angeles where I was an art dealer in 20th century and then contemporary art. Moved to Southeast Florida, and eventually up to Boston. It's important to understand this because Chicago is one of is perhaps our prime partner. No, it is our prime partner in the French collection, in the Japanese collection, and being planned now in the Chinese cinnabar lacquer collection. And I think I can truly say, with the vast number of people who've been involved, thank you to all of them. But on behalf of the artists, thank you, because without your support, there would be no point to this, no point at all. The art needs to be seen, it needs to be appreciated, it needs to be enjoyed. So I'll end very quickly rephrasing the most famous part of President Kennedy's speech in Berlin. Ich bin ein Chicagoan.